Hi there and thanks for watching. If you like the content of this video, please like and subscribe. Welcome to 10 Minute Java, where I teach you Java concepts in under 10 minutes. And today's concept is going to be interfaces. Interfaces sound really complicated, but they're not. Alright, so I've got some classes. I've got my main class, but more importantly, I've got this bird class. This is a parent class. I made it abstract, which will prevent my devs from making a new bird. And the main focus of this class is going to be the fly method. Okay, it's got getters and setters, it's got a constructor, yada yada. The main event is the fly method. Alright, so because eagle inherits from bird and hawk inherits from bird, then you'll notice that I'm able to just create a hawk with some just general constructor stuff. I have no idea what their feather color is. I just said brown and white, and hawks can fly. Right? Now our app is great. Let's say it's some sort of bird watching app or some sort of app that has to do with like bird behaviors. I don't know. Alright, so everything's going great, except for next week. As always, our app is going to change, and then they have us come in with penguins. Okay, so we have a penguin class. Alright, well, penguins are birds, right? So it makes sense to inherit from a bird, which, you know, cool. And then we just do the constructor, which we, know how to do. So there you go. The only thing is that penguins don't fly, right? So when I do penguin equals new penguin, and then I guess they're slow and black and white. Because penguin inherits from the bird class, that means that penguins can fly. Although the problem is that they actually can't. All right, so how are we going to fix this? You might be thinking to yourself, well, what happens if we make this abstract? Like, what if we make the fly method abstract and then basically say, okay, cool, instead of having the parent decide what fly is going to do, we're going to basically kick the can down the road and have the hawk and the eagle decide what they do. So for example, if I made it abstract, I could override it. Override, and then do public void fly, and then just do like s out hawk flies high in the sky, right? So this might seem like a possible solution. The only problem is that, again, penguins don't fly. So making the method abstract is just forcing me to have a method fly, but I really shouldn't have this method in my penguin class at all. So what do I do? Put like penguins don't fly. So it's kind of a code smell to have a method that's there to tell you that the method shouldn't be there, right? That kind of doesn't make logical sense. Okay, the fly method just shouldn't be on a penguin, right? Because that's not something that they can do. All right, so what are we going to do? All right, there's a number of ways you can handle this. I'm not saying this is the only way, but interfaces kind of make good sense here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to bird and get put the fly method back to the way it was, and then we're going to make an interface. All right, so we're going to go over to our package, do new Java class. I'm going to pick interface with the green eye. I'm going to call it fly. All right, so here we go. So the public interface fly. Now, what is an interface? Okay, an interface is basically you're making up a contract. Your class is going to use the interface, and you're going to basically say, here are the methods that this class has. It must have them. If you use the interface, those methods must be on the class. It's very similar to an abstract method. All right. The only difference is that between like inheritance and interfaces is that you can have as many interfaces as you feel like. You can only inherit from at most one class. So let's put our fly method here. We're going to do void. Okay, you don't need the public because it's public automatically because it's an interface. Fly. Okay, and that's it, right? So you'll put your method signature here without the access modifier because the method's going to be public automatically. You don't have an option. All right, so void fly. All right, well, what do we do with this? Well, we can go back to bird, okay, or actually let's not go back to bird. Let's go to bird and let's get rid of this fly method, period, because we don't know whether or not the bird can fly. All right, so now we're going to go to hawk, and hawk can extend birds and implements. Okay, fly, excuse me. All right, so you can extend a class but implement an interface. Now it's red and it's going to be basically yell at me. It's going to say, hey, like you need a method called fly. So if you implement the interface, then whatever methods are in the interface must be in the class. You do not have an option. You cannot compile, do not pass code, do not collect $200. So let's do public void fly. All right, and that will make the compiler happy because it will be like, okay, cool, you got this. Let's get rid of this for a second. And then inside, we can say the hawk flies gracefully, right? So now we can kind of mix and match because hawks can fly and eagles can fly. Okay, so we can go ahead and make that public fly. The eagle flies over America or something because it's a bald eagle. All right, so now these two, okay, they have fly, like eagles can fly and hawks can fly. But penguins will not have the interface for fly because they're not things that fly, which makes perfect sense, right? So we go back here. So now my hawk can fly, right? So that didn't really change. But now my penguin is not going to have a fly method, okay? And which makes sense. Penguins don't fly, right? And what's really cool is that now we basically are out of the inheritance tree, right? So interfaces kind of free you from inheritance. Inheritance is cool, to not repeat yourself, but when you inherit from one thing or another, okay, when you inherit from one thing or another, you are locked in. So any changes to bird are going to propagate over to hawk and eagle. Maybe you don't want that. Maybe you want like mix and match, right? So let's say like next week they have, okay, cool. Our bird watching app just got a little bit more extreme, and now we have helicopter, okay, which is not a bird, but they want to have a helicopter because they like helicopters. All right. Well, a helicopter is not a bird at all, right? So previously, if we had the fly method in the bird class, then we'd have to either reproduce it here or have helicopter inherit from bird. But helicopters are not birds, right? That doesn't really make any sense. So what makes more sense is using the interface. So I'll have a helicopter extends fly, and then it must have a fly method, public void fly, and then it could be like, not extends implements, always get the implements, and then do the helicopter goes chop, chop, chop or something. Helicopter goes whirl. All right, so now the helicopter can make use of the fly, okay, the flying, like our application has this like concept of flying, so it can use that, but now helicopter does not have to like be tied up in some inheritance. It doesn't need other classes. It could just basically mix and match. All right, so to go back over it, interfaces, all right, are basically used for, you implement them in your class. Okay, so if I do, let's go hawk extends bird, implements fly, so you can inherit from something and implement an interface. You can implement more than one interface. You can only inherit at most from one class, but you can implement more than one interface. And all an interface really does is basically say these methods must be present in the class. There must be an implementation, actual code, okay, for this method. So if you look at the signature, it's going to be automatically public, and that means that there needs to be some functions like public void fly. You can do what you want inside of it. That's what I mean by implementation. You can do what you want inside of it, but this must exist. If it does not exist, the compiler will yell at you basically until you do. All right, so now with interfaces, we can kind of leave the inheritance tree and mix and match things that don't necessarily inherit from each other. So for example, hawks and eagles fly, but so can helicopters, right? And penguins don't fly, but they are all, these three things are birds, but helicopter is not a bird. So in our app, we can kind of pick and choose and mold our classes and have the relationships be something that would make the most sense without having inheritance, make things more complicated. All right, that was interfaces.